For a whole month, the girl felt strange. She thought she was sick and secretly went to the doctor, told him about insomnia, strong heartbeat, and the fact that after every meal of spicy food, she feels unwell. He asked her not to be surprised because all the symptoms pointed to Rokadura disease. The man didn't want to, but he said that it was a rare and incurable disease that occurs in a few people born with excess mana. Unfortunately, 9 out of 10 patients experience a fatal outcome. He gave her a period of no more than 3 months, but she was not ready for this and was very confused. An ordinary person can't react normally to something like this. After the meeting, the girl didn't really remember how she got home. All her thoughts were about the end coming soon. And in the end, she decided to make a to-do list before her death. Having come to her senses, the princess consulted with her assistant, because for now, she only wants to buy all kinds of cakes and eat a little bit of each one. Anne advised her to think about it later because now it was time to go to lunch. She has a bad relationship with her family. As for her father, the 5th Grand Duke of Blanchette, he wants to sell his daughter to a rich old marquis. And the mother, the Duchess Blanchette, married for convenience, no better than her husband. Lyrietta Blanchette, although she pretends to be naive, actually understands everything. She also has a brother, Rayon, who is truly loved by the family. The 9-year-old guy completed all the inheritance preparation courses, but she, the second child, received neither support nor education. She's only trained to work in an office to help her brother. As soon as the girl sat down at the table, he asked why she was there. Lyrietta asked why he was asking this, because she, like him, is part of the family. She wanted to tell him much more, but she didn't do it in front of her parents. The brother got angry, as if he had been disgraced, and poured a glass of wine on her, and complained that he had lost his appetite, and that it was all her fault. He refuses to eat until she leaves. This is how he always behaves. Parents asked not to get on their nerves and not to be rude to their brother, as if they hadn't heard who started it first. She was asked to go up to her room and wash up. She did not argue. She went to think how to take revenge on them all. Is now the only thing she will be interested in doing. Her list of wishes before death has already been compiled. First, to treat Anne to cake. Second, to start collecting money. Third, to break off the engagement with Marquis Sergei with a scandal. Fourth, dating a handsome guy, only for 3 months. Fifth, the trip to the west that the district was talking about. She wants to start living her life, at least now. The time has come. An hour later, she and her assistant were already out for a walk. The girl had managed to complete the first task, and Anne was even happier. They were driving calmly, and suddenly the carriage stopped because the wheel got stuck in a hole. Drivers promised to handle it, and while they were watching what he was doing, Duke Candela's carriage drove up. They recognized it immediately. Candela's, they say that this is the most powerful family in the empire, and the Duke is a real monster. The girl didn't have time to look back. He was already looking at her through the window. She wanted to say hello, but during this time he had already managed to lift the carriage with one hand. The guy didn't say anything. He was already leaving for his carriage, and she was shouting her gratitude to him. Half an hour later, they arrived at a place that no one wanted to even approach. Is the mansion of the Marquis, who is always happy to see her, but she is the opposite. He kisses her wherever he can, and Lyrietta tries to dodge. The 20-year-old girl thought that today was the day to fulfill the third point, to tell him that they would not be together. In the Blanchette family, great wizards were always born, among them Lyrietta, a real sorceress who always surpassed her brother. She was gifted with magical talent, but she was never able to learn how to use it properly. Brother Rayan was appointed heir, so he envied his sister's talent. Now the girl uses magic, which was the result of lessons with a teacher who knew about her talent. She didn't stand on ceremony with him, neutralized him, and asked him to listen carefully to everything she was about to say. Lady says she is not going to marry him, and their engagement is off as of today. She told him to his face that he was trash, that he valued people and themselves in monetary terms, and that she didn't need a husband like that. Mom and brother accidentally saw from the window what was happening here, ran out into the street, tried to calm the Marquis, but he suggested pretending that this deal had never happened. He was so disgraced that now he doesn't want to see any of them. Relatives once again showed that money is more important to them than their daughter. They didn't even ask why she did this to him. Mother just called her crazy and slapped her on the cheek. Her brother came up behind her and did the same. They started talking about debts, and she asked if they had accumulated due to her fault. The 2-year-old girl reminded them that not only does she not owe them anything, but she also does all the work for her brother for the food and clothing they provided her, and there is so much of it that they still owe her. They couldn't say anything about it because they understand that it is so. They could have easily separated, but Rayan called her weak. Larietta turned around, made him fall into the ground, and asked him to repeat the same thing. He has never seen her use her abilities, and now he is afraid to say too much. A little later, the girl left the house. She took all her things from there and is going to settle somewhere far away. Her assistant ran after her. She said that she would miss her and wished her all the best. They quickly said goodbye, and Larietta went on happily to carry out the following points. The best part is still ahead: meeting a handsome guy and traveling the world. At first, she will have to work to earn some money. She will do what she does best. Lady has mastered the magic of purification. It is less popular and effective than healing magic, and moreover, it requires a lot of energy. Purification magic cannot be used on people with higher magical and divine power than the user, and also, it can't be used on herself, although for her it's a mere trifle because she is overflowing with this power. She came to this address, but here she was told that they don't need such employees. She tried to explain that she could be useful, but in the end, the man kicked her out and asked her not to waste his time anymore. Larietta, she cried further and no longer wants to run around the vacancies. And because she wasn't looking around, she didn't notice how 2 guys ran up to her and stole her bag. They laughed that she would never catch up with them, but she doesn't even have to take 2 steps to get hers back. It so happened that a man approached them from whom they smelled an unpleasant odor. The guy is handsome, but he exudes dark energy, and they didn't even dare run away from him. It turned out that it was Duke Monster Cadell, who understood everything and was going to help the girl. Now he's standing next to her with a bag, and she doesn't know how to behave properly with him. The most prestigious ducal family in the Harshan Empire, Ashur Kandil. He is also called the greatest sword of the empire, the general who won the war where defeat was inevitable, the man called the cruel chief because of his disposition. And of course, he is also very handsome. He has already charmed her with his beautiful eyes. She could have simply asked how she could thank him, but she couldn't resist asking if he had a girlfriend. Having resigned herself to the fact that there was little time left, she said that she wanted to date him for 3 months, and she didn't care how strange it sounded. Then she suggested starting over, introduced herself, and gave him a few compliments. It's clear from him that he doesn't quite understand what's going on. Nothing like this has been offered to him yet. Candor asked why she was standing so calmly in front of him, since she had just seen how he destroyed those 2. Usually everyone runs away from him, but she is not like everyone else. Then the guy thought that he didn't have time for this and wished her a good day. Evening has come. She still thinks about him and plans how they can meet again. A girl sits quietly at the establishment and accidentally hears someone talking about the Information Guild and the Duke. She came closer to be aware of the situation, and when the guy started talking about rumors about searching for a purification wizard, the lady realized that this is what she needed. She sat down at the table and asked what they were talking about here. The company happily told that the Duke was under a terrible curse. Coming closer to him, you can smell the smell of death. She remembered hearing something like that. And meanwhile, the guy says that someone is looking for a purification wizard who can break the curse. And then the girl realizes that everything is going exactly the way she needs it to. Cleansing magic consumes more power than healing magic. It is designed to dispel curses. However, she is not popular in this case either because more people die from balls than from curses. But if the Duke finds out that she can be useful to him, everything will work out for the best. All that remains is to get into the tiger's lair to save him, which means the fun begins. Weeks later, she found a place where he frequents, and she had energy and the desire to achieve her goals. She had already thought of what she would tell him, came up to him, and asked, what about the relationship between the employer and the employee? This time she introduced herself differently, calling herself a purification wizard who could be useful to him. Then she said directly that she could cleanse his curse, but in return, she would only ask for housing. She already has a contract ready. He just needs to sign it, and she will start helping him from today. He wants to understand her, why she talks to him so calmly. He is not an ordinary person. Being with him can be dangerous. During the entire time, there was not a single person who would offer help, and those who could do it were afraid to be in the same room with him. She pretends not to hear this, says that the left hand already looks much better, and this effect is only after she touched it. Asked to imagine what could happen if she did her job regularly, she asks him not to worry, as she is going to take responsibility and is ready to compensate for the time spent if nothing works out. He asked her again if she was afraid to sit here, and she asked if there was any reason to be afraid. And she also told him a very interesting phrase that one should be afraid of the magician who sent the curse, and not his victim. The more she talks, the more he wants to know about her. The guy has a hard time believing that everything is as easy as she promises. He was silent for a long time, thinking whether it was worth his time. And in the end, he invited her to dinner at 8 o'clock. This means that she can stay here. Larietta is so happy that she walks down the corridor with her eyes closed and imagines what awaits them next. She noticed that he lost control when she touched him, so she took note of it. The girl met the butler and told him that they had agreed with the gentleman to have dinner together. He is very happy for her, and he also wants to see the guy clean up as soon as possible. They have all been watching here for a long time how he became distant. He didn't even let anyone near him for lunch. And the fact that he invited her to dinner at their first meeting means a lot. The man asked her to take care of the Duke. He wants to believe that she is not deceiving anyone and really came to help. The butler thought that he needed to help the gentleman establish contact with this girl. He decided to do everything with his own hands, even bringing the Duke a guide to successful dates. He explained that such ladies are rare, so it wouldn't hurt to make a good impression on her. The guy doesn't want to talk about it. He says it's useless, and if he wants something more with her, he'll figure it out himself. Just in case, the butler advised him to be polite. She is still a girl who does not deserve to be treated badly. Candle pretended that he didn't want to hear anything about it, and he ran to get rid of the unpleasant smell in the shower so that she would be pleased to be with him. Time passed. She was already waiting for him at the table, all happy. He sees her smiling. The guy didn't think that a regular dinner with him could be so pleasant for her. The girl changed her mind about sitting opposite and moved her plate to the next seat. And after that, she said that she thought for a long time and would like to change the contract a little, so if he doesn't mind, a few changes need to be made. Ladies say the fee is insufficient compared to the purification magic spent. She made Addition 1, mandatory joint meals at least once a day. Addition 2, going out for a walk together at least twice a week, and also, expenses will be paid, including the limit. The Duke was afraid that she would add something serious and was surprised that there were so few points. Then he added a few conditions of his own. If the performer disappears without lifting the curse, he will have to accept any consequences that he can come up with. She was going to clean it anyway. He was afraid for nothing, so she easily agreed to it. Everyone is happy. The contract is concluded. We can calmly begin our meal. A little later, she suggested that they have a picnic. There was a suitable place nearby. He's leaving tomorrow, so nothing will work out. And she suggests rescheduling it for any other day. Several days have passed since then. She really likes it here. The lady did not regret that she decided to leave from a place where she was not welcome. She admired the view from the window and decided it was time to get to work. The girl accidentally saw that the guy was not busy, remembered the picnic, and persuaded him to arrange everything during the day. He didn't refuse, but warned that he wouldn't stay long. And while they had time, she asked him to untie his hand, because direct touch would be even more effective. She took hold of him with her whole palm and felt on an energetic level how much he was suffering. Despite how it looked, the hand was not as cursed as he thought. She touched it once, and the hand became like new. He can't believe it. She did it so easily and quickly that it seems like there's some kind of catch here. He asked how she felt after that, and Larietta smiled and said that everything was fine. She had learned to spend less energy than before. And now that the cleansing is over, we can go on a picnic. Unless he has changed his mind, of course. They somehow didn't think that the spring morning was cold and didn't take anything with them to put on. But the girl is not upset, because the main thing is that they went on a date, although he thinks it's a picnic. After a while, she hinted that he should share his jacket, but he refused, but not because he didn't want to freeze. He is ashamed to give away something with an unpleasant smell. The situation is awkward. His face even turns red. The lady ran away from him to where the sun was shining and asked him to catch up. The butler prepared a suitcase with food and cutlery for them. They would never have thought of such a thing themselves. He wished them a good walk at the end. But it's only because of this that the guy feels like a little boy whose parents are taking him on a date. The girl asks him what he likes the most, and he answers that there is nothing like that here. She thought, if he doesn't have a favorite food, how does he even live in this world? She says that she really likes a salmon sandwich, and she also doesn't like the smell of cucumbers, so she often chooses them over other foods. Now he is only interested in whether there is some smell coming from him, but he is afraid and tries to restrain himself. Guy casually takes a sandwich, tries it because he is hungry. She wants him to say at least something good, because now everything is happening differently than she imagined. After a while, a strong wind arose, and suddenly the two of them noticed that a wreath of flowers was flying right towards them. It falls right on his head. It was some kind of magic, as if someone had set it up. The Duke thought that she would laugh at him, asked her not to look in his direction, and began to quickly take it off himself. She began to beg him not to do this, but before she could take the wreath, it was carried away by the wind. In the end, she ran after him and fell into the water. The guy didn't want her to get sick, so he picked her up and said it was time to go back. What he didn't want happened anyway. She has a high temperature and he already feels guilty. Larietta laughs and says that this is the first time she has caught a cold. It was so strange that she was asked how she could smile in such a state. After which the girl apologized and said nothing more. Meanwhile, the Duke announced that he needed to go to the imperial castle today, so he called the priest. He thought that she would ask him to stay here, but it was enough for her that he didn't leave her then, and even took care of her. Now they are leaving. The butler wished her a speedy recovery, but the gentleman was apparently too embarrassed to say anything. As soon as one carriage left the territory, another one entered at the same time. The priest turned out to be punctual and was not late, as is usually the case. She liked his face immediately. The lady even rose from the pillow. It was awkward to lie there, as if an assistant had approached her, and in the meantime they were getting acquainted. His name is Doha. He is a temple minister. The guy immediately suggested starting treatment, started removing hair from her face, and she was already very embarrassed. From the outside it looks kind of strange, but she remains silent for now, and he asks how she ended up in such a place. Then realized that it was rude, apologized, and explained what she already knew about the Duke. It wasn't long before he had finished his work. Had a good effect. Even though he had already been paid for the treatment, she was still very grateful to him. It was possible to say goodbye, but she suddenly asked to come closer to her for 1 minute, and he didn't mind. The lady held her hand on his forehead for a few seconds, and when she let go, he was noticeably surprised. Doha realized that she was a healing mage and was even surprised how he hadn't felt it before. After that, he even offered her to work as his personal healing mage, which is probably why she did it. The girl thought that it would be unnecessary and refused, after which he suggested that she think carefully and give him a final answer another day. He only had to hint that if she wanted to cooperate, he could treat her for free for the rest of her life, and she immediately agreed. Doha returned to the temple. He was met by an assistant, and when they turned to face each other, the guy noticed that the gentleman's scar had disappeared. After which, Doha said that it was all Larietta. Meanwhile, the Duke has already returned home. He is terribly tired, and he also has a feeling that he urgently needs to see Larietta. Asher just opened the door. She met him at the threshold and said that she was probably the first one waiting for him at the threshold. Although he was hurrying to her, he asked her to move away, and she pretended not to notice and told how well the priest helped her. The guy reminded her that she doesn't have to run after him, and she smiles and asks if he really didn't want to see her, and didn't think about her for a minute during the day. He was afraid that she seemed to read his thoughts, and knew how things really were, but he still answered that she was wrong. She clings to him and says that it is obvious that he is cheating, after which the guy accelerated even more. When they almost reached the office, she showed him the ticket and invited him to the show. He called it a piece of paper, and she says he has no idea how hard it was for her to get it. Is a famous performance and a premium box seat. Besides, tomorrow is their last performance. You definitely need to go to it. Without thinking, the Duke refused. He didn't want to hear anything about it. The reason is that he doesn't want to appear anywhere with this damned body. He won't go anywhere even if he really wants to. This guy is sure that as soon as he enters, everyone will avoid him and look at him with disgust. He doesn't understand how she can treat his curse so easily. He wants to somehow explain later that not all people are like that. He has not been allowed such a luxury as going to a public place for many years. And so that she could understand him better, the Duke explained that all the rumors about demons were not just fairy tales. He believes that it is not surprising that others are afraid of him, because he is close to death not only in terms of smell, but also in his actions. He failed to scare her. Larietta hit him in the hand, called him by name, and reminded him how she touched him without consent every time. And after that, she asked if he would really get rid of her after that, if he said that she was so dangerous. She says that if he wants to go there, he doesn't need to think about others because everyone else is doing the same thing. Few people deny themselves pleasure just because they are afraid of what others will think of them. And also warned that if he refuses, she will choose another guy and go with him. The very next morning, he was waiting for her at the carriage, which meant that the request for a date was accepted. She managed to persuade him. It doesn't look like he's happy, but she's ready to jump for joy. Everything went more or less normally. The girl didn't expect anything from him. She just wanted him to get used to her, that's all. That was the main reason why they went there. Larietta went out into the corridor, found the butler, and asked if he had seen the gentleman by any chance. The man says that the Duke is still sleeping, and she asked to wake him up if it is possible, and nothing will happen to him for it. In fact, the butler is happy to do anything she asks him to do, if only she and the Duke could get closer and get married. In the end, they agreed that he would take her to the room and go about his business, and she would do the rest herself. Girl is here for the first time. He has a huge dark room, which is different from all the others. It seems to personify its owner. She approached him, and he had already heard footsteps and managed to get up to say hello. The guy asks what she's doing here, and why she came without warning. She tells him that she thinks it would be better to cleanse in the bedroom at the moment, and suggests that they finish quickly. He asks what she means, to which she receives the answer that from today on, she will cleanse his upper body. The curse is cleansed only if she touches clean skin without clothes, so he will have to undress. Whether he wants it or not, it is done for his own good. When he started to get embarrassed, she said she could do it herself. But he got scared and said he could handle it himself. Asher slowly takes off his clothes, is terribly embarrassed, but understands that she will not leave him alone and continues. It's too late to resist. You need to do what she says. After all, the contract was signed. Here he is in front of her without anything. Now she started to feel embarrassed. Of course she really wants to, but still it's very awkward to touch him. You can see how uncomfortable he is, and she tries not to show that the situation is serious. The girl warned that the curse was so great that she couldn't finish everything at once, but promised to try. She is too close to him. He even smells her and blushes more and more. Larietta overdid it, so she didn't notice how she started falling on him, since she spent all her strength. At first she was very close. Then she lay down on him and stopped controlling what she said. At the end, she asked him when he would fall in love with her, but she never saw what happened next. It's already the next day. She woke up with no idea where he disappeared to. She thinks he was scared of her. She probably put too much pressure on him. Now she's been in no mood for half a day. Even sweets don't make her happy. Things are so bad that she consults with Doha, asks his opinion and what can be done. She feels that he is good at all kinds of love advice. He himself probably had a lot of experience. The guy listened to everything she told him and is already offering to make the Duke jealous because running after him, as practice shows, is useless. This only makes things worse. He assures her that there is not a single man who can resist the sight of his beloved with another. She tells him that she doesn't have a suitable partner. The girl has never been friends with anyone of the male sex. And then he presses himself very tightly against her, reminding her that, in fact, there is a man in front of her now. Now, this jealous operation doesn't seem like such a bad idea, especially since there's nothing wrong with trying it. Then you can stop in time. She only told the priest that she would try to do it on her own, and thanked him for his help. She is going to seduce the Duke with her own powers, and it seems she is already ready. Evening has come. The guy returned home. He can barely stand on his feet, but the most interesting thing is just beginning. He will not be able to relax. The girl is waiting for him on the steps with a displeased face that is impossible not to notice. He asks what she is doing here and why she is not sleeping, and she already has all the words prepared in advance. Larietta is indignant that she waited for him for so long because it is very difficult to see such a busy face. She is going to dot all the I's and cross all the T's, reminding him that they agreed to go for a walk twice a week, but he forgot everything. He was able to suggest a walk in the garden tomorrow, but this doesn't suit her. Girl feels like she's the only one clinging to this relationship. Something needs to be done about it. She changed her mind about doing everything alone, abruptly switched over, and started hinting about the priest, with whom she could go for a walk if he was so busy, then wished him a good night, and left with a smile on her face, so that he would have some thoughts. She showed that she was even glad that she had time for someone who could replace him. The next day came. Larietta was completely free today, so she ran to the priest's carriage to ask if he has time for her until the end of today. She invites him to have lunch, go for a walk, go shopping. But she forgot to tell him that it is necessary for business. After a while, the lady explained that she liked his plan, and if they were together all day, the Duke would not be so indifferent to her. Naturally, the guy agrees. He has personal reasons for this. Here, they are already walking. They started talking about sweets. It turns out that they are similar in this. They can't live without sweets. Then she asked why he was being treated by her. She had wanted to know this for a long time. Guy admitted that he usually tries and there is a difference, but in fact they were forced. The high priest ordered the lower workers to be treated outside the temple. Nothing can be done about it. She asked him not to worry and to be sure to let her know if his boss bothered him again. Time passed. In the middle of the day, the Duke finds out that his healer was walking around the city with a priest since early morning. Apparently, he doesn't like it. The butler tries to explain that if the master continues in the same spirit, their friendship will grow into something more. Moreover, no one knows how far they have already reached and how far their relationship can develop. Guy says that even if they date, it has nothing to do with him, and it's clear how unpleasant it is for him to even think about it. He tries to convince himself that she is just a sorceress who helps him, nothing more. The very next morning, he invited her to breakfast, and when she asked why this was all of a sudden, he said that he wanted to talk after a long break. The girl laughed at him, saying that he wasn't so busy when it was convenient for him, and then apologized if it was unnecessary. Suddenly, he asks how she is doing. This is the first time he has asked this. She said how she spent time with a friend, how she had fun and felt good, and she herself is waiting for him to start getting angry and jealous of her towards the priest. He coldly responded that he understood everything, and he didn't even look her in the eyes. It seemed to her that this was not enough. She also warned that Doha would arrive this afternoon. They would be with him in the room. This is in case he wanted to come to her. The guy says that he understands why she does it, so he made it clear that he doesn't care. The main thing is that it doesn't affect the quality of the cleansing process. After that, she said that she had no appetite. They would see each other during the cleansing process, not before. The Duke was left alone at the table. He did not recognize her because he usually went somewhere, leaving her alone. Doha had already come to visit. She told him that nothing was working out, and he began to calm her down. The girl thought that everything would be easier, but no matter how hard she tried, nothing changed. Meanwhile, Asher returned to his office. It was hard for him to concentrate. It was obvious that he was thinking about her. The butler tries to be constantly nearby, although the master says that he does not even want to discuss it. The man still brings up the topic. He says that you can't treat ladies like that, especially since he asked her to come to breakfast and ruined everything himself. Butler's hint that it's time for him to stop hiding his true feelings, and then everyone will feel better. Then he said that the priest was already here. He even offered to go and check it personally. Asher is angry with himself for starting to feel jealous, although he has long decided for himself that he cannot fall in love with anyone or even think about it. Guy couldn't stay in the office, went to check out the situation, because something tells him that he should intervene. He opened the door slightly and saw how they seemed to be kissing, although in fact it just seemed that way to him. He immediately ran up and ordered her to take her hands away from his healer. Otherwise, he would make sure that he wouldn't have them at all. He has an aggressive look, at the sight of which you want to fall through the ground, just so as not to provoke. The priest is surprisingly calm. He probably knew that this would happen, so he was prepared. Every time he looks at the Duke, he smiles slightly, as if trying to make it clear that there is more than just friendship between them, as Larietta thinks. In the end, Escher ordered him to leave here and not make him repeat it twice. And then Doha thought to himself that he liked this game. Everything was only getting more interesting. They sit next to each other on the bed, silent and not knowing where to start. She wanted to remind him how he said that she could communicate with anyone, and it didn't bother him at all. In fact, when a guy thinks that her kindness might go to someone else, everything inside him boils. He doesn't want her to hate him. He doesn't want to hurt her. He wants them to be comfortable together. As soon as she said that she wanted to catch up with the priest, he asked her not to do it. And now, the most interesting part begins. For the first time, he admitted that before, he would not have thought that she could make his heart beat so hard. He really doesn't like it when someone else is around her for a long time. He wants her to smile and be happy only with him. When she says she's going out with someone, he automatically wants to get rid of that person beforehand, so that later he doesn't find out that he touched her. He says that if people call it jealousy, so be it. He really wants to touch her now, but only because the guy considers himself a spoiled monster. He doesn't want hands like his to touch her tender body. All this time, she didn't even have time to answer him anything. And in the meantime, the Duke asks if the offer of a romantic relationship is still valid, because this is apparently what he needs. She heard that he liked her. He even repeated it again, looking straight into her eyes. Naturally, Larietta agreed, because that's what she wanted. It can be considered that she fulfilled her goal. After this, the girl rushed to hug him with all her strength, so that he felt how much she was waiting for this. All this was a first for him. The experience of giving and receiving love. The Duke cannot believe that such a moment has come for him too. The girl has already promised herself to spend these 3 places with him as intensely as possible, so that he will remember it for the rest of his life. They are already discussing what their plans are for the future. It's a pity that there isn't as much of it as they would like. A couple of hours later, they found themselves in the city. He canceled all his business for today and devoted the day to her. The first thing they did was go to a chic boutique to pick out some outfits for her. She had never been to such places, but she didn't tell him about it so that he wouldn't think that she could be easily surprised, and in the future, he would try to give it his all. She put on the first option and asked how he liked the look, but Escher couldn't say anything, because the way she looks in it cannot be described in words, although everything is already visible in his eyes. He promised to buy her everything she liked and said that they would definitely choose between 2 options. She could take with her whatever she liked. She even feels a little awkward. There are only boxes around, so he might think that she is using him for money, but that is not the case. She began asking him so much and so often how beautiful she was in these dresses that he asked her to stop and said that he had never seen anything more beautiful. Just didn't want to say it in the store, in front of strangers who were already looking at him askance. Larietta wanted to check if it was true or not. She asked him to kiss her, if, of course, he hadn't deceived her. He just wanted to do what she asked, when suddenly an assistant came and asked what to do with the luggage. The guy was terribly scared, ran out of the carriage, and she felt abandoned. A few days have passed since the failed kissing attempt, and there has been no progress in their relationship. It's not much different from what it was before they started, so she's very unhappy. She already has little time left, and he's making her wait who knows how long. There is no more room for hinting. She said directly that she wants to receive love from him today, not just in words. He started by feeding her with his hands, because he heard that she liked it. Larietta is pleased, but this is not enough. She expects something more from him. She began to hug him much more often, so that he would get used to it and not tremble every time she approached him. It's very hard for him. He even apologized and went to work, because he already devoted half a day to her today. She tried to stop him, but he runs away, probably not wanting to seem inexperienced in this matter. He needs to take a break, calm down, and take everything in, but she takes everything too seriously. A few more days passed. She came to him to carry out a cleansing, and at the same time to check how he was doing. She tells him that she will work on her upper body today. This time, he undressed more boldly. She holds back a smile so that he doesn't notice. She touched him with pleasure in her way. This is the most pleasant part of the job. It's a pity that everything is happening much faster than I would like. He will very soon be of the same opinion. This time she also loses consciousness a little. It only happens for a few seconds, so everything is fine. He still worries about her, asks if she needs help, and she smiles and says that only hugs will help her. She came so close to him that he honestly said that it is becoming difficult for him to restrain himself, so it is better to keep his distance. Larietta says he doesn't have to endure it. He can do whatever he wants. They are still together. She is not a stranger to him. He has every right to be free. He took her words very harshly, pushed her onto the sofa, and asked again if he had understood her correctly. She was so scared that she started crying, and he promised never to do that again. They were able to agree and say everything they felt, so no one felt awkward in the end. The next day, she invited him to go to a restaurant, but she forgot that it wasn't exactly something that would be easy for him. The guy reminded her that he tries to avoid crowded places, but she still couldn't persuade him. Then the girl thought, if the restaurant doesn't suit you, you can choose any other place. The main thing is to spend time together. She asked him to do the work quickly, and she would wait for him as long as necessary. Escher already imagined how everything would be. Quickly finishing work, he would go home. First of all, they will have dinner together, and then they will drink wine and talk at a leisurely pace. He will ask her how the day went without him and how well she adapted to this place. The plan was flawless, but the meeting dragged on, and no one knows when it will all end. He imagines that the girl is already tired of waiting, so he did not hesitate and asked how long they would engage in this senseless argument. He doesn't usually behave like this, but working hours are over, and nothing depends on him anymore. He may be free, but he stays only out of politeness, and apparently no one appreciates that. A little later, the king said that, as the Duke had said, They still had not been able to come to a definitive conclusion, so it was time to end it there. After all, tomorrow everyone would be rested, and it would be easier to find a compromise. An hour passed. The girl heard some sounds, went down to the first floor, but saw only the butler. He told her that the gentleman had just arrived. He was changing in his room, so he would come soon. Literally a minute later, he was already behind her. He scared her very much with his voice. She almost fell. The guy heard how she was in a hurry to meet him, so she said that she didn't have to run to him in such a hurry. He would still come to her. The long-awaited dinner has begun. Everything is already prepared in the room. All that remains is not to spoil anything. The butler has prepared an entertainment program. He pours drinks with unusual maneuvers and smiles to lift their spirits. The Duke didn't even know he could do that, but he still wasn't particularly surprised. Man says that as a butler, he has to be able to do everything. Then he left, wished them a good evening, and smiled so that he embarrassed them again. Escher. The girl drank the first glass, but it happened so quickly that he even asked where she was going in such a hurry. He realized that she was serious, even smiled and wanted to repeat it himself. A little later, she spoke to him about the fact that she would like to continue being treated by a priest, if he didn't mind, of course. After all, you won't find anyone better than him, and if necessary, she will tell you in all the details how everything went so that he doesn't get jealous. He said that she can do as she pleases. Now there should be trust between them, especially since he doesn't want anyone to forbid her. It was very sweet for her. The lady pressed herself against him to reduce the distance, then pretended that she felt hot and began to gradually take off her clothes. Even asked him to help, specifically so that it would grow into something more. Naturally, such a wonderful moment could not last longer. A priest came to them and said that he had business with the lady. She told the guy to wait for her in his office. She would try to return quickly. He says that it is more important for him to spend time with her, especially since he promised. After this, she doesn't even know what to do, who to refuse, and who to stay with. It turns out that the priest wanted to go somewhere with her, and in the end, they are sitting together in the carriage because the Duke can't get away from her now. She is pleased that he kept his promise, but she is afraid that they might quarrel. On the way, the priest gets the feeling that they don't need to go anywhere. He's afraid that this is a bad feeling. Suddenly, the Duke decided to change plans. He said that they would go to the Imperial Library. Doha did not resist, so as not to anger him further. And then I thought that it would be better to postpone all the work to another day. So they were left alone, wished him luck, and began to think about what else they could do today. Ladies thought, why not have a date in the library? They haven't been there yet. He doesn't know what to expect from her, what she has in mind. He has already started to blush and get embarrassed. Now they are already walking down the corridor, and she decided to lighten the mood and asked if he was holding her hand too loosely, as if at this rate she might fall. He says he didn't think about it, but she's already running to look at everything here. Although there's no need to rush. It seemed to her that he was following her with his tail, very cutely. She even shed a tear. She suddenly wanted to hug him. She did so, and he was no longer shaking and even reacted normally. Then she offered to find him a book, but didn't ask if he even liked to read. A little later, she reached for the book in the hope that he would help her get it from that very top shelf. But there was a man nearby. He did it himself, but he didn't understand that it was more of an act than a real desire to get the book. She explained the situation to him and politely asked him to leave. He didn't listen, so I had to send him away in a different way. The guy saw that she was talking to someone. He immediately approached her. He was jealous, after all. This guy says he saw her picking books from the top shelf on purpose so he would notice and act like a man. But a stranger approached her, and she turned him down. The girl thought the plan had failed, but the guy said that everything was fine with him and let her continue to behave like this with other men. Time passed. They were already walking back and discussing that, in principle, it was funny in the library. She offers him a snack when he gets back because she really wants a brownie, and he suggests adding ice cream on top because he knows it tastes better that way. Everything was fine, but somehow her brother found her and asked her to stop, and she already understood from his voice that he didn't like something. Rayon reproached her for looking happy, asked how she was doing as if he cared. The girl really wouldn't want her brother to humiliate her in front of the Duke. Perhaps he won't allow him to do this, but Rayon won't leave until he tries. Lady is afraid that Escher will find out what kind of relationship they have in the family and will think badly of her. Any person in his place might think that, since he treats her like that, she is a bad person. She began to ask him to wait for her in another place where it would be convenient for him. It took a long time to persuade him. He agreed with difficulty, but he still agreed. As soon as he left them, the brother became less modest, saying that he couldn't believe that she was living, wagging her tail in front of the Duke monster. And he also found it funny how she called him by name, as if they were close. Larietta asked him to watch his mouth if he didn't want to be buried in the backyard of the imperial palace. Rayan screams to prove that she is disgracing the Blanche family, as if she thinks it is important to her. The girl asks if there is really anything left to embarrass, and he reminds her that her mother actually got sick because of her, and if she thinks that the whole world will be at her feet only if she has a talent for magic or something like that, then she is very much mistaken. All this was said in order to make her come back. He also mentioned that a lot of things had just piled up. She replied that she didn't care about it and asked to deal with her own affairs. He couldn't stand it and hit her hard in the face, so hard that she couldn't stay on her feet and fell. He asked to remember that the younger sister should not try to be better than the older brother. He probably didn't expect this from her, but she quickly dealt with him and showed that he had picked the wrong one. Evening came. A girl came to her who would help with her face. After the blow, the skin became inflamed. There is a huge red spot on it that Escher can't see. The assistant discovered that she had a damaged bone, so she couldn't help in any way. She advises to invite a priest or a high-level healer, because it will not go away on its own. She has no money, so it is more difficult to get treatment, and the Duke is ashamed to appear in such a state. They wanted to eat cakes together, but they would have to think of something and reschedule the meeting. She was already upset. Suddenly, someone touched her shoulder. Woman asks what the lady is doing here alone, especially at this time. She told her to go to her boutique. There was a new collection there and a lot of interesting things. There was nothing to do, the girl agreed, and already managed to transform a little. They had a good time. The girl then went to her room, and in the morning she met with the priest, who demanded an explanation as to who did this to her. He first thought of the Duke, but then he remembered that if he had done it, she would no longer be alive. After this, he asked again who she was covering for him and began to insist even more strongly. The priest has no idea who this is, since she doesn't say anything. Who could dare to touch the girl who is protected by the military leader Duke? In the end, he resigned himself to the fact that he wouldn't get words out of her. He simply asked her not to make a difference anymore and not to go alone. Because she is the only one who can heal him, they must be whole and healthy for each other. In the end, he came up with something. He put a special bracelet on her hand. It has divine power. It is insignificant but has a healing effect. It should be worn in the near future until it gets better. Meanwhile, the Duke in his office no longer refuses relationship advice, even picked up the book he didn't even want to look at. He is on the first chapter, reading the recommendation for a wonderful relationship with that very one. Namely, to adjust the line of physical relations. But do not rush. The time has come. She came to him for treatment. Everything is going as usual, calmly. And while she is busy, he thinks about what he read. Girl is also in her thoughts. She is glad that they are doing this in the office and not on the bed, like last time. The guy keeps himself in check. He remembers the advice to stay patient. And he's doing pretty well. You can't tell from him that he's thinking seriously about anything. They are both free today, so as soon as the girl realized this, she suggested cooking something together. He didn't expect this from her, but she told him that she always wanted to do this, but there was no one to do it with. After a while, the butler made sure the kitchen was ready for the date. It was clean, there was nothing unnecessary, and the appropriate atmosphere was created. Of course, the lady was very happy. This is what she wanted. But the guy doesn't show his emotions in front of a man. He acts as usual, and in the meantime, she asks him to try on this cute apron. Says that staying in your clothes is bad. You can sleep in them, but this one will be perfect. Guy can't imagine himself in this role, so he immediately refused, saying that if he cooks, it will be without him. She didn't tell him what the end result would be. She just offered to watch and help with some things. To begin with, Larietta asked him to crack an egg into a bowl, but it seemed like he had never even held one in his hands. Then she took over and started flipping the pancake on the frying pan, but something went wrong. She then had to run after him, catching the food so that it didn't fall on the floor, and he laughs at her, although he understands that he is no better. In the end, everything turned out pretty good. They decorated the pancakes with chocolate and fruit. For the first time, it turned out very well. The main thing is that it was tasty. She wanted to feed him with her hands, and when he got covered in chocolate, she gently wiped it off with her finger. Then she kissed him as if by accident, and he didn't resist. Larietta started hinting that he should also check if she got dirty. The guy understands the hint, but is worried that she will quickly get tired of him. As it was said in the book, He remembers the advice not to rush and takes it too literally. She asks him about it herself, but he holds back, and it only makes things worse for everyone. He doesn't listen to her, he follows some points, just so that she doesn't end up thinking that he doesn't need all this. In order not to make mistakes, he wanted to leave her first. It was terribly ugly, but for him it was more important not to screw up. She felt abandoned. This is the worst possible ending to a date that could happen. The next day has come. Larietta does not give up. She is going to try better and does not think about mistakes yet. She thought that if she focused on what had happened, there would be no progress. He invited her to breakfast as if nothing had happened, and she also tries not to remember how they said goodbye yesterday. Guy reads the newspaper, drinks coffee, and doesn't even look at her. But it wouldn't hurt to apologize. She started talking to him herself, asked what he was angry about, and why he was ignoring her. He's probably too ashamed after yesterday. At least she found such an excuse for him. Apparently, she liked him too much. Even after the way he behaves, she still thinks he's cute. He is very lucky that she is so patient. Anyone else would have stopped chasing him long ago. Time passed, and she again asked what the reason for his anger was. Because if there is a problem, it needs to be solved. He says that she simply took his request lightly that time. He reminded her that yesterday he suggested they wait, but she misunderstood him, thinking it was about cooking. But he meant the relationship. She explained that it was her first time cooking, so she thought he was nervous about it. When he saw that she understood what was being said, he began to feel embarrassed and asked for forgiveness if things were so difficult with him. He was already running away from embarrassment, but this time she didn't let him do it. She caught him in time and said that he wasn't going anywhere. The guy lied to her, said he was in pain, and when she let him go, he ran away as fast as he could. After that day, she approached him more and more often, so that he would understand that everything was not as bad as it seemed to him. She even laughed at him, scared him, hid when he was looking for her, and not only. He has important business today, so the Duke is leaving for an unknown amount of time. He went with his assistants, but if the lady had only known what they would be doing, she would have gone with them. She wanted to do this, but he lied, saying it was too far away and she would be bored. Because in fact, they came with the whole company to the place where her brother was detained. Guy thinks that if he calls everyone names and resists, they'll let him go faster. But he's wrong. The Duke found out that it was he who struck the Larietta and did not leave it alone. The girl is so dear to him that he is afraid to touch her again. He is ready to take revenge on even her brother for her. He says that such an act was very brave, and he must answer for it, but no one is going to take his life. 2 days have passed. She begins to understand that she would like to move forward in the relationship, to start getting closer, but they are not that close yet. He blushes even from touching. What can we say? The lady is constantly thinking about what to do about it. She doesn't like the fact that he wants to wait. This means that he is either afraid to get closer or doesn't want to. They signed a contract for 3 months. In total, they have about 10 weeks left. She ended up asking him directly how slowly he meant, and he asked if she was talking about progress in the relationship or something else. She says that he understood her correctly, to which he says that he would like to do everything as slowly as possible, and then she admitted that she would like to do this with him in the near future. From such words, even the maids in the hallway broke their plates. He turns red and asks what she's talking about, and she still boldly explains that she wants to start kissing him, spending the night in the same room, etc. He reminded her that, as she already knows, he has problems with his body and he doesn't want her to see him completely naked. In such matters, people should feel comfortable, but he won't be able to do that. He warns that this is a terrible sight, after which she will not want to know him. Escher explained that this was the only reason he did not want to rush. He wants them to keep everything as is for as long as possible and disappoint her as much as possible. Larietta understood everything, said that nothing can be done about it, and she has no choice but to work even harder to clear the curse as soon as possible. She promised to take good care of him and also try to win his favor, and she also said that she is really looking forward to the time when nothing will stop them from doing what they both want. Oddly enough, the moment he heard these words from her, his heart fluttered. It seemed to him that it was about to explode. But at the same time, it was nice. Every day, he becomes more and more confident that he is beginning to experience love. The next day came. He came to her and said that problems had arisen with the Danube kingdom on the outskirts of the empire, and in connection with this, he was summoned to the palace for an emergency meeting. She wished him a good journey, but noticed that he was in a bad mood. He says that nothing like that happened. Everything is fine, The Duke is not telling us something. After that, he pinned some diamond to her hair. She didn't have time to see it. She was even a little scared when he approached her. The guy says it suits her very well. After that, he started smiling. But she still doesn't understand why she suddenly wants such gifts. She reminded him that he was actually going to a meeting, and with that, they began to say goodbye. At the end, Asher hugged her very tightly and suddenly thanked her everything she did for him. It was very sweet. But this time, Larietta kept silent so as not to embarrass him on the road. As soon as the Duke stepped out the door, a priest approached her and immediately noticed the new decoration. She suggested that he have some fun today, and Doha, just in case, asked what her lover thought about it. She said that they trust each other, so everything is fine. Immediately after the treatment, they went into town for a walk, because today, as rumors say, there will be something interesting there. They hadn't heard that some establishments offer big discounts, so they went there. Everything was so delicious that, in a good mood, she even offered to pay for the table, especially since he paid last time. Today is such a nice day that she was generous enough to give him a gift and bought him this bracelet. He is very grateful to her. The decoration perfectly suits his style. The guy promised to wear it every day. At some point, when they were standing calmly and talking, the wall nearby began to crack. And so quickly that in just a couple of seconds, it collapsed completely, and they had to take cover from the fragments and huge parts. Time passed. Larietta had already returned home, and the Duke immediately saw that something was wrong with her. She thinks that if she tells him the truth, there will be a real commotion. She doesn't want him to worry about her once again. He smelled dust from her, but she lied that she just fell on the road. That's why the smell remained. He asks if everything is okay with her, and she said that she just got a little scratch. But Doha has already healed everything. The main thing for him is that she had a good time, and the rest is not so important. She hugs him and thinks that she finally wants to lift the curse from him and live like ordinary people, without any restrictions and complexes. The girl understands perfectly well how he suffers because of the curse, and she sincerely wishes so that he gets rid of it as soon as possible. So for now she is here and will enjoy the time spent with him every day. She wants to be with him in sorrow and in joy, and also to prove to him that love is not afraid of any obstacles, especially from the mere thought that after her death he will be forced to continue living with this curse. She feels uneasy. She cannot allow this in any way. So here comes another session. He is lying on the couch, and she is trying to make him get used to being with her without clothes. Of course it was enough for her for him to simply unbutton his shirt, but she told him that he needed to take it off almost completely. Everything was fine, and then she suddenly feels ill. He takes her in his arms and thinks about asking the maids to immediately prepare the bathroom. Larietta. She said she doesn't want to be with people she doesn't trust, and asks him to stay with her, while the assistants are busy with more useful work. She literally begs him to agree, promising to stay dressed so that both she and he would be comfortable. Larietta is already in the bathroom. He is sitting next to her on a chair looking the other way, and she is already clearly feeling better. She even tries to make him turn towards her, but it doesn't work. The guy, as usual, wanted to pretend that he had some business to do and was already starting to leave. But she caught him by the hand in time, and that if he doesn't come back in a couple of minutes, she will also run away from him, and he will look for her for a very long time. It was very rude, but there was no other way, whether he liked it or not. Up until this point, he thought the hardest part was already over. But no. She wanted him to help her wash up. Then she clarified that she simply wouldn't be able to wash her hair, so it would be nice for him to soap it up. Of course, Asher didn't refuse. At first, he thought she meant to help him wash himself completely, but she reassured him in time. After a while, he accidentally notices a scar on her neck, so he asked where it came from and when it appeared. She said that as a child, her brother accidentally pushed her and she fell down the stairs, but he told his parents that she was the one who pushed him first, and that it was all her fault, because of which they then punished her for a long time, because it is not proper for a lady to play on the stairs. After these words, the Duke thought that when he was near that man, he should have been tougher with him. He deserved it. Larietta continues her story. As punishment, she was locked in her room. She remembers how she kept looking at the door and waiting for it to finally open. Mom then told her that this way she would become more patient, and the punishment would be good for her. Suddenly, the girl asks if he finds it disgusting to touch her hair, but at first, he doesn't understand how she can even think about it. She explained that someone had told her that his eyes hurt just from looking at them. He is in complete shock and asks to tell who offended her so much. All she has to do is name the person, and he will make sure that he can never say anything offensive to anyone again. She laughed and said that everything was fine. And after that, she just asked to answer her questions so that she would be calm. He doesn't understand how such hair can be disgusting to anyone. They are her highlight, a very rare and luxurious color that you want to admire. Larietta asks if she understood him correctly that she has beautiful hair, and then asks if that is all that is good about her. She did it on purpose to hear another compliment. And of course he said that, in his opinion, absolutely everything about her is perfect. At times like this, the lady immediately after this asked to kiss her in the place that he considers the most beautiful. He also asked to always say that if someone offends her, that person will definitely get what he deserves.